What's for dinner? Hey everyone, I'm Chef Z and welcome back to my channel, Chef Z Cooks. Today I have a really exciting recipe. We're going to be making Moro de Gandules with cauliflower rice, or as I like to call it, Cauli Moro. Now, I love this dish because it combines all of those traditional Hispanic flavors that I love without the added carbs. So it means I can eat, and my waistline won't suffer, which, whew, let me tell you something, that right there is goals. Now, stay tuned until the very end of the video because like always, I do like to share some quick tips just to make sure that you guys nail this recipe each and every single time. Let's go ahead and get started. Making Cauli Moro is super easy and super quick, and it's definitely a great way to cut back on carbs. So first things first, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to rice my cauliflower. Now, I don't like to overcrowd my food processor, and I also don't like to overwork it. So whenever I'm ricing my own cauliflower, I make sure to do it in batches, and then I pulse it only for a few seconds, like 2 to 5 seconds, because I don't want the bits to be too small. So after I've riced my first batch, I'm gonna go ahead and rice my second batch, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm gonna add them in, and I'm only going to pulse it for a few seconds until I get it to the perfect size. Now, you can definitely buy the pre-riced cauliflower at your local store. Just know that when you do it yourself, it's cheaper and you get so much more. But if you buy it pre-rice, you can go ahead and use that amount with this recipe. Your Cauli Moro is just going to have some extra guandule, which is totally fine. I went ahead and I added the first batch back into the food processor only because I noticed that those bits were a little bit bigger than what I wanted them to be. Now here's a close-up of how I like the cauliflower rice to be. I definitely don't want the rice to be too small, otherwise it's going to turn into mush. We're now going to set our flame down to medium, and we're going to add some olive oil. And now we're going to saute some onions, some green peppers, some celery, some garlic, and a pinch of salt and pepper just to make sure that we open up all of those aromas and seal in some flavor. Now, you will notice that I added celery, and celery is optional, but adding just half a stalk of celery is definitely going to make this Cauli Moro taste like a true Moro de Gandules, and it's going to give it como sabor de campo. So it's going to taste like a countryside Moro de Gandules, which I absolutely love. So after those onions and peppers have been sauteing for a few minutes and they're nice and translucent, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some guandule along with some Dominican oregano, but regular oregano will also work. Keep in mind that you can use canned guandules or guandules that you have softened on your own. After the guandules have sauteed for about 2 minutes, we're going to add some tomato paste, some Sazón, some freshly chopped cilantro, and we're going to work in that tomato paste until it has fully dissolved, which may take about a minute or two. And afterwards, we're going to go ahead and now we're going to add some water, and you can definitely eyeball this depending on how much cauliflower rice you have. Remember, if you bought the pre-riced cauliflower, you're actually going to have a tiny bit less than what I have here. So once that guandule has started to simmer, you want to taste it and adjust the seasoning. So I went ahead and added a few pinches of salt, but you can definitely use adobo or chicken bouillon cube, whatever you have on hand. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our cauliflower rice. Now keep in mind that you don't want the sauce to dry up too much because you need some of that liquid to perfectly coat the cauliflower rice, because this is what's going to give it all that flavor and that beautiful color. So make sure to mix it in until it's well combined. Now, you also don't want it to have too much liquid, because whenever you're making cauliflower rice, number one thing you don't want it to do is turn into mush. We're now going to cover our cauliflower rice, turn down the flame to super low, and let it simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes, because this is going to soften our cauliflower rice until it is perfect. Again, we don't want it too soft, but we also don't want it too hard. So there you guys have it, my recipe for some Cauli Moro. Now feel free to have this with your favorite side dish, whether it's pollo guisado or carne guisada. And if you have any questions, comment down below. Until next week, I'm Chef Z y buen provecho. Hey guys, so here are some quick tips whenever you're making this Cauli Moro, and honestly these are tips that you can use in general whenever you're making any kind of cauliflower rice. So tip number one is that you can actually rice the cauliflower yourself like I did in today's video, or you can buy the ready-made rice cauliflower. Both work perfectly fine. Now I will tell you that if you choose to rice the cauliflower yourself, it's actually going to be a little bit more affordable and you actually get so much more for your money. For example, in today's video, all I did was rice 1 head of cauliflower and it gave me roughly about 4 cups of riced cauliflower. So you can play that by ear. Now, my tip number 2 is I personally think it's best to use fresh cauliflower versus the frozen cauliflower. And the reason is because frozen cauliflower just has so much more moisture. So your cauliflower rice may run the risk of getting mushy. So whenever you are making cauliflower rice in general, I just always suggest that you use some fresh cauliflower. Now, speaking of moisture and speaking of mush, whenever you're making the Cauli Moro and you are sauteing the guandule and you're building up that beautiful sauce, you actually want it to be a little bit saucier, because when you're adding in the fresh raw cauliflower, that cauliflower is actually going to take in some of that sauce. So you want to make sure you have enough to coat all of the cauliflower. Now, my last and my final tip is when you are making this dish and you have added the cauliflower into the guandule and you mix it in with the sauce, you do want to make sure to now cook your cauliflower on a low heat and cover it and let it simmer for a few minutes, but definitely keep an eye on it because you don't want to overcook it. The minute you overcook cauliflower rice, it gets mushy and the texture isn't something that you necessarily like. So me personally, because I want it to feel just like regular rice, I want it to be I want it to be softer than hard, but harder than soft. So just right in the middle and perfect. So if you follow all of those tips, regardless if you're making Cauli Moro or if you're making any other cauliflower rice, you should be golden. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Now, if you have any questions, be sure and comment down below and join the Chef Z family. Click that bell so that you're notified each and every single week when I post an all new video. And if you need some more inspirations and ideas on what to make for dinner, go ahead and click right here.